was that? So, contrary to the national rhetoric on the subject matter, and so most people's, kind of knowledge or common perception of the situation is that it was something that the Crown forced these Māori chiefs to do, and that they had no choice, and that blah blah blah. No. It was elected. It was asked for. It was, in a large part, organised by the Māori themselves, and it was a factor that brought stability and peace. So, I mean, they got to a point there in the height of the Musket Wars, when all the tribes had eventually acquired their own firearms, and had evened the playing field, rather than being a slaughter of people with hand weapons against people with firearms, which is, as I say, as a quick trajectory into extreme levels of violence that you're capable of performing to your fellow man. There's we'll go a little bit, reverse a little bit. As I say, 1833 was the height of the conflicts. And in this whole period of time, when there was like at least 20,000 people dying, and an estimated like 30,000 people either being abducted or sent into unfamiliar lands, it got to the point where it was very impractical to have a female child. So we'll call it postpartum non-aliving of female children was commonplace if there wasn't like a son already in the family, or like a couple of sons already. You wouldn't bother, because A, they can't grow into a warrior to defend and fight for the tribe, the village, the whānau group, but also they're a liability in the sense that because that purpose was so fundamental to survival, especially in a subsistence lifestyle like that, they were just a liability. Somebody that you had to leave at home that could potentially get raided and taken away. There's so many stories of people in those days like murdering their wife and daughter, because they know that when they get captured by the other tribe, they're going to be put through such extraordinary pains, torments, tortures, and degrading, that they would rather just kill them before they got there. Like, that's a extremely terrifying society and social structure to live in. You don't know where there's a raid coming. You don't know, if you're going to come back, and the village is still going to be in one piece. And it's a daily thing. It must be a very, very terrible existence like that. So you can imagine why there was an inherent want to have some kind of stability, and maybe evolve past that level of violence that causes you to make these decisions. Or there's stories of slave raids happening, and then being brought back in a line, and the wife of the chief seeing any girls that she thought was attractive in that line, and stoning them to death straight away, just in case her husband picks the new girl over her. This was witnessed by quite a few settlers that were a little bit disturbed. As I say, it was definitely 95% was requested from the Māori populace and the leaders themselves, and there would have been a few complaints about the the slavery and the infanticide and the public summary executions for no reason, and those kind of things. They probably weren't too impressed by those kind of activities going on around them, but in the most part, they just let them do their thing. There was like a absolutely fractional amount of conflicts or deaths between the English military forces that were pretty scarce anyway, and Māori during that period of time, when, as I say, we literally had an internal death rate of like up to 50% of the population by the highest end of these estimates. Even if you go to the lowest end, it's still 10 times more than what died in the colonial fights between organised bands of Māori and the supposed these evil colonizers. But really, the reasoning behind that, um, oh, sorry, it was a. We'll skip back and forth, anyways. So the other aspect to it is that when you've got this very slow transfer of information, and of course, if you think you're signing a document, it means nothing. You don't know about sovereignty. You don't know who Queen Victoria is. Who gives a fuck, right? Not like they can tax evasion, for example, which I don't think they even impose taxes on them. What are you going to do? Give like some of your goddamn crop or something? I'm sure currency wasn't a huge thing at that time. And as I say, tax evasion in those days would have been fairly simple to kind of work out. I'm sure like, they have no control of your day-to-day life because they're not living in your village with you. It's just that if you do have any major grievances, conflicts, anything like that, they will eventually, say, ships and stuff, overland travel. Yeah, it's not a very efficient system. And then don't mention when you get off the boat and you have to travel through dense New Zealand bush to get anywhere. So it took 5 years from 1840 to 1845 just for that system to kind of take effect, and everyone go like, okay, well, I'm not going to go over the village and go over the hill and kill X village, because then 6 months later you've got all the redcoat people coming and telling you off, or putting sanctions or imposing some kind of penalty on you. But eventually it did kind of come to a bit of a stop. It died right back down. Possibly a lot to do with the scarcity of goddamn people at that time. 100,000 people in somewhere as big as New Zealand, hard to find when there's only like half of them left. Also, people going on about land rights and shit like that, right? Have a look at a map before the Musket Wars, right? Where the different tribes and different iwis were located, and then look at that map after that time. What exact land are you trying to claim back in general? Because Māori came over here in waves of like 200 years, so I'm sure that there would have been the first boat, I guess. It's Maui from Hawaii. The myths and legends are fucking very unique and awesome. I love Māori myths and legends, but that wasn't one thing, and I'm sure that the mystical place of Hawaii, which they're trying to figure out where that is still, they have some pretty good clues, but not sure. I'm sure that was probably an island group either way, and they probably came from different other Polynesian islands to that same locale. But it wasn't all in one. What we're here, this is us now. It was all in different time periods and different groups of people. Basically, coming and finding a new who knows? Was it unused? Was there anyone here first? How the hell would we know? There's no archaeological evidence to the contrary, but who knows? Who knows? As I say, Tiropraha, our great friend Tiropraha, he went rampaging up and down. His band of men killed more Māoris internally, Māori on Māori violence, if you will, than the whole land wars from every colonial force. Just his band of warriors killed far more than 2,154, which was the casualty rate for the Māori forces during this just stigmatized land war where it was just no chance. They had their guns by then. They knew how to use them. They were a mean fighting force, one of the best fighting forces in the world. You ever heard of Gate Pa? Have you ever heard of the Māori Battalion? Yeah, these motherfuckers are crazy good, crazy brave, very skilled and strong people. So it's you know, you'd think there'd be a big disparity in the rates of casualties. It's like 750 odd compared to like 2100 odd. That's not that different. Like, that's not a big like trade anyway, in that sense. As I say, they know they've literally recorded all the different. Hiropa's life has got a very detailed historical. They knew what he was doing and when he was doing it and who he was doing it with. It's all recorded and stuff. Not to mention just a little pop over to the Chathams and just a casual genocide. Yeah, well, as I say, I'm not sure how you kind of look at that. As in, I'm fairly certain that there's been no Irish or Scottish like genocides carried out by them, whatever you call that. But, they never did a genocide to a peoples. The Scots, mate, that's the other side of that. I'm proud of those motherfuckers. That side of my ancestry was the only ones to keep the Romans out of their land that got attempted to be conquered, and they just said nah, and kept on fucking them up basically. So yeah, as I say, they had it was bad times. It was really bad times, and I'm not pointing the finger at anybody. Like we've all societies and civilizations have had the tribal warfare stages. Probably one of the reasons why the English thought to impose their rules on us Irish, mate. The Irish, we fucking kicked them back. We still haven't got the whole of Ireland, Northern Ireland, never fucking seceded to them. So yeah, as I say, we know all about getting colonised as a culture, I guess, but I don't get hung up on that shit. I care not for it at all. It's a historical thing. It's unfortunate it happened, but I feel sorry if people have to hold the kind of stresses and grief in their heart from things that happened a crazy long time ago, in the perspective of what actually can have an effect on you now. So, as I say, this is all just to try and show that there's a bit of misinformation, a bit of guilt tripping, a bit of casual racism by default, because I still see it as a racist type of rhetoric to not just down another race, but elevate yourselves above every other one. That's like racial supremacy, I'm pretty sure. If you think you're way more special just because of something special that happened fucking 200 odd years ago. And I doubt that most of these people that are hung up on this kind of thing really know how this came about. This is a super controversial subject matter. But as I say, this is an information, little tangent rant, information delivery. Like I will say again, I'm completely impartial. I love the fact that our native peoples, able to secure a document for their takeover, for their gradual, inevitable slide into having a multicultural country like every other person does. Every other country, unless you're in some kind of bloody Eastern Bloc or Russian, some kind of secular country, or closed borders like North Korea. Everyone else lets people immigrate to their country anyway, and as long as it's done through the right ways and means, then you're happy, you're fine, you can integrate yourself. immerse yourself in that culture and potentially make a new life. It's like not just specific to America. The American dream is a world dream. Make the best of your life and embrace the people in the place that you're in as best as you can and be inclusive. I was gonna kind of finish up with a little bit of a um, conclusion in the sense of I do not believe that um, it's necessary or it's healthy to get hung up too much on things that I would hate to imagine that you are too informed about if you have that opinion. I'm just saying because you sound like you are the most naive, unresearched, and um, it's like a I feel like a historical grief complex. I used the word residual before. It's putting too much ownership and attention on things that have little effect on your life now. Like it was sad these things happen in certain ways, but I tell you what, was it more sadder than having like rampant 39 years of rampant tribal warfare where it was like indiscriminate killing and slaving? Um, I touched on the whole, you know, how you collect mana, but we all know how that works, right? So yeah, as I say, just a little uh, guide to actual the timeline, the stats, the reasonings, the contributing factors, and the uh, you know, comparison against what could have happened, what did happen, and what happened to other people. And I tell you what, I wish my people had a fucking treaty back then. It would have been fucking sweet. I tell you what, we got y'all are so lucky. As I say, and I'm not saying that in any kind of facetious way. Like, I'm a bit of a history buff. I'm a bit of a psychology buff. I'm very interested in the way that people's minds work, how they think, what affects them, and um, in history in general, or you know, as a combination, because people don't really realize the differences in mentality and the way that societies 200 years ago, or even 100 years ago, worked compared to ours. There's things that they would have done, practicality or tradition, that would be completely obscure to our modern day sensibilities. But that's why I did all the comparisons to similar groups of native peoples in their lands, using my own personal reference. There's thousands. I mean, uh, a lot of those African countries that were colonized were just literally um, put into such a bad state without any kind of help, without any kind of reciprocation for the wanton, uh, insatiable thirst for resources and minerals and things like that. And if you got a list of countries that had been colonized at that time, around in the early 1800s, well, say 1830 to 1880 period of time, I think for actual how that played out in a practical way, how we'll say mild that was compared to how it was for fucking so many other people, does make you sound a little bit fucking unnecessarily hurt. Like, should I be going to petition the goddamn king? I was going to say the queen, but the king now, because I feel like my ancestors were wronged for 1,000 years. Like, you killed half our population, like at one time, of short as period of time. They didn't kill proportionately anywhere near as much people. Not even fractionally, and not even. It's something like less than a quarter, or I think 1/5 of the same time period that you had to suffer. Like, as I say, using the Irish as an example, or Scottish, both of them. The Scots were smart; they went and hid in the hills. But tough people and still resisted it, but they probably didn't choose to be, um, you know, clan, clan Highland, and people that lived up the top of the, shitty weather in England. I've heard, and the more north you go, the shittier it's going to get. But yeah, as I say, both those cultures um, were specifically targeted and oppressed and destroyed and um, overtaxed and suffered racism. Look, there's I saw a little thing when I was doing researching a different topic where there's a picture of a pub in England, somewhere London, I think, in like 1968, and it had a sign outside that said, "No dogs, no bums, or no dogs, no vagrants, and no Irish." It was just like a normal thing. They literally treated them as less than dogs up till the mid 1960s, which is, as I say, it's astounding that you can get those kind of cultural dynamics that are so residual. But just think about it in a way of, don't worry, you're good. It's going to be good. It's going to be great. Life is great. Don't get sad too much about the past, because I think it's a little unjustified. And I think it's definitely, if you have that point of view and you know these facts that I've just laid out, which you can reference them all. I mean, look them up, go ahead. 100%. I implore you to do that. You have to do a little digging, because the New Zealand government's like goddamn, we call it a propaganda factory for guilt tripping for some reason. And I'm not saying the government has done nothing bad. I think they most definitely got into the whole, on the bandwagon of systemic nationalized racism, in the early 20th century. But think about this as well. Every fucking one was doing that. A lot of countries haven't even like cleared up their racism to like a manageable level where it's not like commonplace. Our brethrens over in Aussie, I love the bastards, but Jesus, they're one of the most racist people towards their native people I've ever like met. It's insane. America, not too, it's getting there, but it's not on the forefront of universal acceptance even yet. So even in the sense of how they fucked people around, yeah, everyone was getting it. It sucks. It shouldn't have ever happened. But I can't personally take any responsibility or apologize for it when, as I say, it's apples are apples. These things happen. They sucked, but people had it worse, and it could have been worse. And love life. It's all good. Don't you worry about it. Don't you worry, all right? It's going to be all good. And I mean, I don't know where, if there is a line to draw, where you call it and say like, well, tell you what, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but it's the Māori were the first people to be ever colonised with a bit of paper, or like their sovereignty seceded by a piece of paper out of a native people. It was always violence. That was the rhetoric. That was the tradition. That was the one of the easiest ways to quickly establish, dominance. So yeah, as I say, be happy. Think about what you're getting upset about, because it might upset other people, and you might assume when you see someone with a light-coloured skin that they've got just by default something to do with the terrible atrocities that happen in New Zealand. Quite likely, no. To be fair, so please don't make assumptions. And if you are going to be making yourself the favorite in some kind of weird theoretical way where it's so bad because it was you. I think that's selfish, and I think that it's a burden on you. You need to lighten up, think about how things are the way they are, not the way you think they should have been or should have done, or people still literally grieving what happened to somebody that they never met or their parents never met. It was like so many generations back that they're a faint memory, but they're still holding in their heart that same trauma. So, as I say, the whole point of this was just to unburden some people. I know it's going to piss some people off. If you just say the word treaty, you've got to be making sure you're, you wouldn't even talk about it in fucking public. I tell you what, to a stranger, because it's such a loaded thing. But that's enough fun. Hopefully, you guys get something out of it. And remind me to keep my face covered, because I tell you what, as I say, loaded topic, and you can figure out who I am anyway. Like, yeah, you guys have a good one, and I'll see you later. Kia ora whanau. Fucking good talk.